Shivaya Namaha, Om Shivaya Namaha, Shivaya Namaha, Om Shivaya Namaha.
Today, we have with us our honorable guest speaker, Dr. Sangeeta Desai. Dr. Sangeeta Desai acquired her doctorate in Women's Studies from SNDT Women's University, Mumbai. Dr. Desai also completed her MBA from Jamnalal Bajaj Institute of Management. She is faculty at the Research Center for Women's Studies at SNDT and teaches gender and development and gender in legal terrain for the MA students. Sangeeta ji also works as a consultant to various NGOs that addresses issues of adolescent girls and women living in slums of Mumbai. She has worked in the interiors of Maharashtra to bring out the challenges and issues faced by the women development workers in rural areas. She is passionate on issues surrounding women's livelihoods, their economic and social empowerment, and believes that innovative development models need to be experimented. Men and boys have to be sensitized for reducing the gender gap and bring in social justice for the marginalized communities. Sangeeta ji, we bow our heads towards your service to this society. Also, we are happy to have you in this in today's Mahashivratri session, Om Namah Shivaya, on the topic significance of Jyotirlingas in India. Over to you, Sangeeta ji.
Thank you. Thank you for the warm introduction and also for the opportunity to speak on the significance of Jyotirlingas in this holy period of Nandi Paksha. Nandi Paksha is that fortnight in which, for 15 days, which is 7 days prior to Mahashivratri and 7 days after Mahashivratri. So this is the period which is supposed to be the most holy period of Nandi Paksha, where we can chant Shiv Panchakshar Stotra and multiply our punya. So thank you for this opportunity. And well, I'm not an authority on this subject, but attempting to walk the spiritual journey with all of you. Before I begin with the significance of Jyotirlingas, let me narrate a small story from Shiv Leelamrut. And I'll also need to share my screen because I have made a small PPT on Jyotirlingas. Are you able to see my screen? Okay, good. So I was saying that thinking of first narrating a small story from Shiv Leelamrut, and those who are familiar with Shiv Leelamrut would definitely know this, but for those who don't, this is about Lord Shiva and how much devotion his devotees have towards him, and how Lord Shiva tests the devotion of his devotees and the sacrifices that his devotees make, but ultimately they get the blessings of Shiva. So this is the story of a small boy called Chillaya Bal. There is a couple who is devoted in the services of Lord Shiva. Their names are Shriyal and Chaguna. So this couple is a very pious couple. They live in a small town, and they have a small child who is 5 years old named Chillaya. So one day, Lord Shiva says, "Let me test their devotion." So he disguises himself as a Brahman and visits their house. Now, Shriyal and Chaguna both are into the service of mankind, and they never allow anybody to return empty-handed from their house. So anybody who comes there, they have their meals. So Lord Shiva, disguised as a Brahman, comes there and says, "I want meals from you." So they willingly said, "Okay." But then he puts a condition, and that condition is that he wants only narmas, that means human flesh. the further condition that he puts towards them is that narmas I don't want from outside. It should be not be purchased from outside. It should be from within. So then Shriyal and Shaguna says that okay, then we will, you can kill us and you can eat us. So he says no, but you are the host and the hostesses. I will not eat yours. So then they said, oh, then he says that you have a son. So uh, with a heavy heart, Shaguna, the mother, calls her little boy of 5 years old and says, Chillaya Bar, please come here. And then Shiva says, no, but I'm not a, animal. I'm not a wild animal. You have to cook it yourself. And she is in pieces, but, Shaguna actually takes her little boy into the kitchen, makes a meal of him, and comes in front of Lord Shiva. Then Lord Shiva says, tells her husband, now you also have to sit with me to eat this food. It is such a terrible thing for both the husband and the wife. They are such staunch devotees of Shiva. They will not allow anybody to return empty-handed. Their sattva pariksha is at test, and the husband sits with Shiva to eat the food, and then Shiva says, "Oh, but how can I eat this food? Because now you are niputrik. Niputrik means you are now become childless, and I don't eat food at childless couple's house." And both the husband and wife now are in such a situation that their only child, Chillaya Bar, is also lost, and now this Atithi which has come in there at their home, he is also now refusing to eat. Now what do I do now? Shaguna says that this is my only child and that has also been killed. Now I don't know what to do. And then Lord Shiva blesses them and says, now you can call out the name of Chillaya. And she just calls out the name, and the Chillaya Bar running comes to their arms, and Lord Shiva blesses them for eternity, and blesses them with his divine blessings. This story is a very touching one, and I think that such kind of devotion a person needs to have and needs to develop in his mind. His mind has to be very pious, that without questioning, they are such ardent devotees of Shiva that they do not even question and they willingly accept whatever is told to them. So now with this story, now we can proceed with what is Jyotirlingas. So each of the Jyotirlingas takes the names of the different manifestations of Shiva, and some of the characteristics. Because why are Jyotirlingas different from the normal temples that we visit of Shiva? That is something which is very important to know, because the pujas and the abhisheks that are performed are always on the linga. And in India, there are many temples built in the glory of Shiva. So how is a Jyotirlinga different from any other lingas? So there are certain characteristics, there are certain things that we need to know about them. The first and foremost is that the Jyotirlinga is Swayambhu. What does Swayambhu mean? It means that it is not made by man. They are divine and self-formed. The covering of the linga is made by men, but the original form is not constructed by men. So then what about the temples that we see, the structures that are built? Yes, those structures are built by men. They are built in different centuries. They are built, renovated, demolished by conquerors, rulers, vandalized, destroyed, and rebuilt again. See, the glory of Shiva cannot be destroyed by just a mere destruction of a physical temple. And the perfect example of this is the Somnath temple of Gujarat, which was conquered around 17 times and again rebuilt. So that's the glory of Shiva, as I said, cannot be destroyed. Even Kashi Vishveshwar, in UP. It's been conquered so many times. It's been rebuilt, and so the conquerors come and go, but the faithful ones always rebuild the temples. Now, all of these sites, the primary image, the lingam, represents the beginningless and the endless. Stamba, pillar, symbolizes, what does it symbolize? It symbolizes the infinite nature of Shiva. I think Mr. Raghavan already had mentioned about the infiniteness of Shiva. So the stamba, the linga, is actually the infinite nature of Shiva. There is no beginning and there is no end. Jyoti, Jyotir means light, and the endless infinite pillar of light is called is also known as the column of light. So on the right hand side, you can see that the column of light. It is believed that a person who has attained a certain kind of spiritual level uh, sees these lingas as the columns of fire piercing through the earth. Uh, they are time immemorial. Time immemorial means uh, we know the dates of each temples when it is built, but we cannot ascertain the dates or the time period in which the Jyotirlinga came to earth. So the simple reason is they are time immemorial, wherein the humans don't know the time when it has got formed. And although there are various legends that are found in the Skanda Purana, which tells us a story behind each Jyotirlinga, the Puranas also say that if you chant the specific mantras, stotras, stuti, praises of Jyotirlinga, then all your sins in all of your past and the present life gets wiped away, and one becomes pure, chaste, and illuminated and enlightened human being. So that's the significance of the Jyotirlinga. Uh, that is also the reason that many of the Shiva devotees of Shiva take the resolve of visiting and having the darshan of all the Jyotirlingas at least once in their lifetime. So the question, if which Jyotirlinga is the holiest? And that question is very difficult to answer. Simple reason, if we say that each Jyotirlinga is a manifestation of Shiva himself, then how can one be greater than the other? But having said that, each Jyotirlinga gets its significance or its importance because of many other reasons also. For example, the Jyotirlinga at Kedarnath, for example, it has got its own significance because Adi Shankaracharya has taken his samadhi out over there. So these are some of the additional reasons why a particular Jyotirlinga becomes, a famous or more significant than the other. But they are all equally holy and spiritual places to visit. How many Jyotirlingas are there? As we consider that there are 12 Jyotirlingas, and if we look from the top left-hand side, then we see it's Somnath, Mallikarjun, Mahakaleshwar, Omkareshwar, Vaidyanath, Bhimashankar, Rameshwar, Nageshwar, Vishwanath, Trimbakeshwar, Kedarnath, and Krishneshwar. I think most of these names, children, you have already mentioned while in the previous activity which you did. So you've already mentioned many of the names of Shiva, and these are the 12 Jyotirlingas which are there. Now, where are they located? Because they are located across India. And I've just done a small map out over here and to understand where exactly they are located. So Somnath and Nageshwar is in Gujarat. Mahakaleshwar and Bhima Shankar, Krishneshwar, and Trimbakeshwar. These are in Maharashtra. Vaidyanath is in Jharkhand, Vishweshwar is in UP, Kedarnath is in Uttarakhand, Rameshwaram is in Tamil Nadu, and Sri Shailam is in AP, Andhra Pradesh. Mahakaleshwar, Omkareshwar, these two are in Madhya Pradesh. So this is how the 12 Jyotirlingas are located all across the India. Now let's look at quickly look at what is the significance, or just will know the places where it is located. So we said that Somnath is in Gujarat, and it has been built and rebuilt several times. I mean, you know, children, in history we have learned that it was conquered so many times, and the richness and the glory that it had, that the kind of gold, the ornaments, that that was looted also so many times, but again it was rebuilt also so many number of times, and it is one of the Somnath is in Gujarat. The second one is Nageshwar. Now, Nageshwar temple lies in the coast of Saurashtra in Gujarat. This Jyotirlinga is in an underground sanctum, and the major attraction here is that there is a 25-meter tall statue of Lord Shiva, and he's in a large garden with a pond surrounding it. So here the lingam is an oval rudraksha with three faces, and it is also, the stone is a very peculiar one. It is known as the Dwarka stone. Next, coming to Mallikarjun, I think somebody also mentioned one of this as a names when we were doing the previous activity. So Mallikarjun is on the flat top of Nallamala hills in Srisailam in Andhra Pradesh. It is believed that Shiva and Parvati visits this place on a Amavasya and also on a Purnima day. Mahakaleshwar. If you see the name itself, Mahakaleshwar, it's the in the picture. If you see, it's completely dark, and it is located in the city of Ujjain in the state of Madhya Pradesh. The temple is situated on the site of the holy river Shipra, and this is the only idol of Mahakaleshwar which is known as Dakshinmukhi, which means that it is facing towards the south. Omkareshwar temple is also in Madhya Pradesh, and it is on the banks of Narmada, holy Narmada river. Omkareshwar is said to be the place where Adi Shankaracharya met his guru Govinda Bhagavad Pada in a cave, and this cave can be found even today below the Shiv temple, where an image of Adi Shankaracharya has been installed. Next is Bhima Shankar, Trimbakeshwar, and Grijneshwar. Now, all of these are in Maharashtra. Now, Bhima Shankar is located near Pune in the Sahyadri Hills. It is a composite structure of old and new structures of the Nagara style of architecture. And if time permits, I'll tell you a story of the Bhima Shankar. Trimbakeshwar, also one more thing about Bhima Shankar is that the great ruler Shivaji is said to have given endowments to facilitate the worship services out over here. Trimbakeshwar Trimbakeshwar town is an ancient Hindu pilgrim center which is located at the source of Godavari river, and the extraordinary feature of the Jyotirlinga located here is that the linga in the temple is again in the form of three faces embodying Tridev, Lord Brahma, Vishnu, and Lord Shiva. Here the lingas are covered by a jeweled crown which is placed over the gold mask of Tridev, and the crown is said to be from the age of Pandavas and consists of diamonds, emeralds, and many precious stones. Grishneshwar Jyotirlinga is located again in Maharashtra, as I said, and it is in the Aurangabad district and very close to the Ellora caves. Here on the left hand side, you will see the Kedarnath temple, and it is surrounded by a beautiful Himalayan range. And here it is built at an altitude of 12,000 feet above the sea level on a mountain called Kedar, and hence Kedarnath. Kedarnath temple, this temple you can visit only for 6 months of the year. It is not open throughout the year because it is such a heavy snowfall. The roads are also not properly constructed. And in between, many years back, there was a lot of flood and a lot of destruction that had happened. But this temple stood the test of times, and the structure and the lingam out over there everything around the temple vicinity got destroyed, but not the actual temple and not the actual lingam. So it's tested. Even everything in that temple premises actually got washed away, and people also many people got lost their lives here. Kashi Vishweshwar, Kashi Vishwanath temple. It is located in Varanasi in Uttar Pradesh, and I think there is some scribbling on the screen. I don't know why it is there, but Kashi Vishwanath temple. It is also known as Vishweshwar temple, and this is located in Varanasi in Uttar Pradesh, and it is Varanasi is also known as Kashi, or it's still known as Kashi. The present structure, which is constructed in the year 1780 by the Maratha monarch Maharani Ahilyabai Holkar of Indore, and the etymology of the name Vishweshwar is Vishwa means universe, and Ishwara means the one who is the dominant. The next is Vaidyanath temple, and it is also known as Baba Dham or Vaidyanath Dham, and it is located in the Deoghar district of Jharkhand. And the last one, and we always say that keep the best for the last. So Rameshwaram, and it is located in Tamil Nadu, and there are two lingams here inside the sanctum. One built by goddess, believed to be built by goddess Sita from sand as the main deity and Ramalingam, and the second one is brought by Lord Hanuman from the Kailash called Vishwalinga. And Lord Rama instructed that Vishwalingam should be worshipped first because it was brought by Lord Hanuman, and the tradition is still continues even today. There is a belief that those who go to Rameshwar and seek blessings shall always reside in Shivaloka. So this was about the 12 Jyotirlingas. And do we have time for a small story on Bhima Shankar?
I think the time is up now.
No problem. So maybe some other time. And this has increased the significance of Jyotirlinga. And thanks once again to the Prajnodaya family, the team, for organizing this such beautiful cultural events, and which help us to reflect on the rich spiritual glory, and also reminds us that it is our duty to carry this knowledge to the next generation. Thank you so much.
Mesmerizing information about the Jyotirlingas, isn't it, children?